All right, so I want to talk a little bit about 1917, a film that came out not too long ago. It's still in theaters, and I highly recommend you go check it out as soon as possible if you haven't seen it already. I saw it last weekend, and it's still on my mind, so I just want to talk about it a little bit. This movie, on a technical level, is one of the most impressive films I've ever seen in my life. Of course, the only other movie I've ever seen that's like it is Birdman. And if you don't know what I'm talking about the fact that the movie is an entire one shot. The whole movie is an entire giant ass one shot. The camera never cuts away. You are with these characters from the beginning all the way to the end, and you're seeing the story from their perspective and nothing else. And it is such a technical feat that while I was watching it, I started to get a little depressed because I realized that I will never make anything that good. Nothing I make, or most people that will ever make, will ever be that technically impressive. Just the amount of giant takes they had to do, the amount of prep they had to do for some of these scenes, and how perfect the camera angles were, and how perfect the camera transitions were that you didn't even notice it. They were completely hidden. A lot of them were mostly hidden. There's a couple I noticed, right off the bat watching the film. Anytime like a rock or, some kind of CGI rock comes in front of the screen, right? The camera's like moving around a hill or a rock to get to the other side. That's a transition shot. That's a part where they're cutting the film and they're connecting another scene that they shot. Those transitions are pretty obvious. It's when you get to like some transition shots where the camera just pans up from like the soldier's feet to their chest and just pans up like a frame quicker. That's also a transition shot, but it's so quick you will never notice. And when I was watching the film, I started to not even think about the fact that it's an entire one-shot film and that the camera's not breaking at all, because it was so natural the way the camera was following the characters and the way it would focus in on, characters talking and stuff. It just felt like a normal movie because the transitions were that good. They were that smooth that it completely left you immersed in the film. Now, what is the film about, you say? Which, I'm shocked that you have to ask that question when the movie's called 1917. But I'll ask you. It's about World War One. It's just one day in this war, and these two soldiers are sent on a mission to stop an Allied attack on the Germans because the Germans have laid a trap and they're falling right into it. So these two soldiers get a mission. They have to go deliver the message to stop the attack, and they have to cross no man's land, and they have to get behind enemy lines to go deliver the message. And also, they have to save the brother of one of the main characters that's going to be caught in this attack, right? So it's very similar to Saving Private Ryan. It's very similar. And no doubt, Saving Private Ryan is an excellent sequel to 1917. One of the best war films of all time. But I think 1917 rivals it. And from a pure technical standpoint, it surpasses Saving Private Ryan. But as far as story goes, it's very similar. But that's kind of like where the similarities end. They're both trying to save someone's brother. It's kind of like the same thing. But yeah, I'm willing to forgive that. And in fact, the story in 1917 is very simple. And it has to be in order for this to work. It has to be this focused in order for like this one-shot thing to work. And you're following them from their own trenches all the way to no man's land, through no man's land, to the German trenches, to a French village, back to their allies' trenches. So it's a really focused movie. You have one goal, and you got to go from A to B. A lot of people won't like that. A lot of people think the movie's too simplistic. I think it's perfect. I don't want a mind-bending narrative when it comes to war films. I just want to see the war. I want to see it from their perspective, and that's exactly what this movie does. And it's nominated for a bunch of Oscars, too, right now. I think the cinematographer, Roger Deakins, legendary Roger Deakins, by the way, who's done stuff like Blade Runner 2049 and No Country for Old Men and Fargo and Skyfall. Like, this guy clearly knows what he's doing with the camera. All right, there's a lot of shots in this 1917 movie where I was just like floored. Because not only do you have the difficulty of making the film look like an entire one shot, but you also have to place the camera in ways that make sense. as if the film isn't a one shot, as if you're actually, transitioning to a different angle, but instead of actually cutting to that angle, you're moving the entire camera to get to that angle. And that's like a level of difficulty that's way beyond anybody else right now. And there's a particular shot in this movie where you're following the two main heroes through the trenches, and they're coming up on like a little section in the trench where there's soldiers in front of them and they gotta walk around them. And what's amazing about this shot is that you see like this crowd of soldiers, you see, walls and stuff, and you think the camera's gonna follow the two main leads around this thick group of people in like broken down wall and stuff like that. But instead the camera goes to a side angle to like a profile shot of the heroes, and then it goes through the crowd of people without any hiccups. It just turns, goes through the crowd in an impossible angle. It is seamless. And just the level of difficulty in that 5 seconds and the planning that goes into that, it's just another level entirely. And of course, the reason I like, Zack Snyder so much is his camera work. He knows how to make those impossible shots look good and feel completely seamless so that you're not even questioning the shot, right? But in this 1917 movie, I was like questioning every second, like, how the fuck did they do that? Like, how is this even possible? That was like every 10 minutes of the movie, I was saying that to myself. And another part that almost blew my mind, but then I realized real quickly what they did, was when they go over water and you see the characters, walk around this little pond of water that's like disgusting, and they're walking around it and the camera starts going over the water. And I'm thinking, holy shit, how did we go from the top of this little hill all the way down to the water, and now we're floating just above the water? And then I put it together real quick. It's a crane shot, like that. I was like, all right, it's a crane shot, That's the only way they could have pulled off that goddamn shot. And without a doubt, I looked at the behind the scenes photos from this movie. There's a lot of crane shots in this movie. So that explains a lot. But yeah, just completely blown away by all the camera work in this movie. Legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins has proved once again why he's a legend. But also Sam Mendes was a director, and he directed Skyfall. This is like his big movie that he's been allowed to do after, the huge success that Skyfall was. This is like his big venture, right? And he kills it. He completely nails it. The movie has a great direction, very precise vision of exactly what he wants to do, and they do exactly that. And you got to be a hell of a director to direct something like this. Like, we're talking like huge sets, very detailed, lots of extras. There was barely any CGI in this movie, and that's fucking incredible when you look at just how impressive the camera work is. And then you look at, these soldiers running across this field, and he's bumping into them, trying to run past them, and that's mostly real. Like, they shot with a lot of extras. I'm sure there's CGI extras in there, but like, there's a lot of people in that shot. And he really is bumping into people on accident. Like, that was like their first take of that scene or something like that. I read that about that scene, that was their first take when he's bumping into the soldiers and he's starting to run past them and stuff. That was all an early take, and they kept it. And the way the movie bookends itself with the same exact shot just shows what an incredible director Sam Mendes really is, how clear his vision is, and how he can easily transcribe that vision to his crew, right? But let's talk about some other technical stuff about the movie. The movie has a break right in the middle of the film. It's like a black screen, so that's clearly a nice break point, a transition to a new scene. But I also think like maybe this movie was like almost 4 hours, and that was going to be like an intermission, because I could see that, because it is a welcome break, because you are getting a little tired, because the movie is an entire one shot and it feels like you just can't take a breath because of how intense a lot of the moments are. And then you get this black screen and it just feels like a nice breather, and then it goes back into the film to finish the film off with the second entire one shot, right? So that really felt like an intermission point. And I imagine there is a long cut in this movie. There's longer cuts of every movie. And I could see points where they could have had a scene extended, and then they decided to cut it probably. So I would love to see an extended cut. We're probably never going to get it because this movie's like critically acclaimed. It's pretty much a masterwork in every sense of the word. And usually when films are like that, they don't feel a need to, even show the deleted scenes, which sucks because there's some there, and I definitely want to see what else they had. Because I enjoyed this movie from beginning to end. Every scene I liked. I liked the main characters. I didn't love it, but it was enough to like the movie. It was enough to keep watching the movie and not get bored. You get some cool cameos from some other actors in the movie too, so that keeps you engaged right there. And I really love the use of all the other big actors they use, because Mark Strong will just pop up and he instantly has credibility as a character because he is a well-established actor. And you just believe everything he says. And that's the same case with a lot of cameos in this movie. But back to the technical stuff. The lighting in the third act, in the last half of this movie, the third act, pretty much, where he's walking through this French village, and you have the orange from the fire that's in the distance, but it's at nighttime, and the sky is getting lit up by this white flare, every 10 seconds. That was one of the best, feats in lighting I've seen in a while. Because you have to contrast both these different types of lights, right? But then when it goes to black, it has to be black. It has to be pitch black. And the film is able to contrast both those things in a seamless way. So, I gotta give major props to that. It was fucking amazing. And anytime they went from an outside daytime shot to an indoor shot where there's lots of shadows and stuff, the lighting changes instantly. And you don't even notice it. And it feels like one shot. It's incredible. Because a lot of time with interior shots and outdoor shots, they kind of have to reset, change something with the lighting completely. Maybe even get a different lens on the camera. There's a bunch of stuff they got to do when they go from an outdoor to indoor shot. But they just go from outdoor to indoor in this movie like nothing. Instantly. And it's just mind-blowing, really. But yeah, what else can I say about this movie? Oh, the music. The music is incredible as well. One of the best scores I've heard in a long, long time. But this movie, crushes that because it is subtle when it needs to be subtle, but then it gets big and loud when it needs to get loud. And it's not overpowering either. I could listen to tracks from the soundtrack on their own and have a good time listening to it. But when I watch the film and those music bits come up, I don't get lost in the music. It just becomes part of this epic scene that's happening, right? So I really loved how the soundtrack was able to hold back when it needed to, but then got really big when it wanted to and when the scene called for it. And it made the movie just amazing. There's a lot of great moments with the music, stuff that will make the film timeless and classic. And I'll probably re-listen to, those favorite bits from the score. Yeah, that's it for now. On a technical level, this movie's a masterclass in every way. It's a 10 out of 10 on a technical level. A story and as an actual film from beginning to end, it's a 9 out of 10. There's some things they could have did a little better, maybe a little different, but then again, you have to have a very concise story. You have to have something A to B in order for this to work. And all the actors did a great job. Nobody sucked. Nobody was distractingly bad. They were all very good. And I love the ending of the film. I think it's very good. A death scene that I didn't see coming, a couple turns I didn't see coming, and I really just had a good time watching. I can't wait to get this movie, and I can't wait for the sequel. There's a built-in sequel with this franchise now. We established World War I, now we got to get the big sequel, World War II, and then we ended off with the trilogy cap with World War III, and there you go. You got a nice little franchise here of Sam Mendes one-shot war films. I would love that if there was a cinematic universe of just Sam Mendes one-shot war films. That would be great. I want more war films. We always have to wait a long time to get a good war film. And this is definitely it. And I'm definitely looking forward to anything Sam Mendes does next. Obviously, the cinematographer, whatever he does next, I'm definitely watching. But yeah, that's it for now. What do y'all think of the movie? I know a lot of people have various opinions about this film. And I definitely would be shocked if it didn't win anything at the Oscars. If this doesn't win for cinematography, what is the point of these Oscars? Why are we having these award shows if we're not giving it to shit that's unbelievable? This movie. This is crazy good. How good the cinematography is. It's unmatched. But anyway, that's it for now. Comment below. Let me know what you think of the 1917 film, the Masterclass in cinematography. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.